Hey guys, welcome to the Power Network. So, Power Crew, it's Weird Watts Wednesday, and today we're spilling the spicy details on one of the most forbidden entanglements and true crime. Were Chris Watts and Nicole Kessinger addicted to substances, to their physical connection, or just to each other? Chris didn't unravel, he erupted literally overnight. His body, his behavior, his mindset flipped on a dime. And Nicole, her search history is screaming obsession. So, was it love masquerading as obsession or something darker, something chemically fueled? I'm going to roll credits while the rest of the Watts Island crew boats on over. Shout out to my power crew and my fierce dragonflies. Do you think substances played a role? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I really want to know what you think.
Carefully strumming his old guitar again. Words rolling out into our fire. If heaven had wings, I would steal them and fly away with you for a while. Here in the essence of gratitude, your dreamy little smile on my lips. I miss my cue, but baby, I had you. Miss my cue, but I had you for that day.
Here in the essence of gratitude, I never have to worry about missing my cue when I'm here with my dragonfly, my power dragonfly crew, and my power crew. So I'm so happy to be here with you. It's Weird Watts Wednesday, so we're boating on over to the island. Before we do, if we could just start that algorithm dance party that I like to do, if you could just warm up your fingers and dance them right up to the hearts and thumbs up button, helps us go out into the algorithm party out there and bring more people back to the party. It's just a free way to help us out. Today we are sponsored by none other than Wild Deodorant. I am so happy to have Wild Deodorant as our sponsor. So here's the deal. Living with autoimmune and hormonal issues means I have to be super, super careful about what goes on and in my body. That includes deodorant because, you know, our skin is a living organism and stuff goes right through it. A lot of the big brands full of junk and makes me actually flare. That's why I switched to Wild, a natural aluminum-free deodorant that actually works and won't wreck my system. Plus, it's refillable, smells amazing, and helps cut down on single-use plastic. So it's better for me and the planet. Support this channel and your pets. Get 20% off your first purchase with my code ParaWomen at shopwildrefill.com/parawomen. I will put this in the links and also in the YouTube show notes. Thank you for helping keep the Power Network rolling one swipe at a time. I did want to show you also that when you go to that link that I just provided you, this is what will come up. And when you go into it, you can go here. And this is my page, and this is what the deodorant looks like. When you go in and you just click on the deodorant after you've made all your selection, it would be normally $16, but with my 20%, with my discount, it would, you get $16, and then the refills are $7.20 each, and then the cases are from $11 each. But if you get the pack, that's $16, you would get the deodorant and some actual cartridges to put in it. You can pick your whatever you want, and you would get 20% off of that. So anything that you do for me, I really, really appreciate. Be sure to support Wild Deodorant. And I will put the links up here on the screen, and it's in the comments, and it will be over in the YouTube show notes. Everything that we actually view and watch during this live, I will put over in the YouTube show notes. We might stop and start things, and I'll stop and I'll talk over it from time to time, but we do that for fair play use and to cite our sources. Excuse me. So, yeah. So, what do you guys think about the idea that Nicole and Chris were using substances other than we've talked about the Thrive patches, and I think the Thrive patches definitely played a role. Some people like to poo-poo that away, but he was doubling and tripling up. And I think over-the-counter medications, when not used correctly, can definitely go haywire. So do you feel like Chris and Nicole Kessinger were using substances? I got the idea for today's show from this channel. True Crime Rocket Science. I had seen this thumbnail where it said addicted, and I was like, because we'd always talked about the patches, and we had talked about the tea, which we're going to talk about the tea a little bit later in today's show. We're not going to talk about the patches today because we've already talked about the patches with Cowboy RC, and I will link that show if you're interested more in the patches. But we're going to talk about the tea. We're going to talk about the substances. I looked around the internet, and there are allegations, and this is all my research, my opinion. I urge you to go out there and do your own. And this is just my opinion. All opinions are welcome here. I don't shame you for thinking other than I do. In fact, I actually encourage it. And as long as it's done respectfully, given respectfully, it's all good here. But what do you guys think? There has been whispers about them not only doing Chris doing the patches and Nicole giving the tea, but they were also doing rugs together. YouTube is weird about things that I can say, so I will be using these alt words. I don't prefer them, but it is what it is. So, rugs is with minus the D, and we're going to be dancing around the physical loving that they gave each other as well. So we're going to be dancing around these words today. This channel I didn't really get a lot out of it, but I did get the idea from it. And so in doing my research, I went over to one of my favorite places, Reddit, and they were talking about this over there, and dark things going on. I have read several books that mention Chris commented about dark things going on at NK's house, and he always follows up the comment with, "I will take what happened to my grave." Any thoughts on whether this is even true? Also, I have seen a lot of negative stuff about CW, but never that he was manipulative. After watching that jail story about CW and his cellmate, all I could think of was, wow, CW is manipulating the whole story. I think Chris is very good at playing the good guy. He plays the dumb guy, like he's dumb, but I think he's a lot smarter than we give him credit for. I mean, he did unalive his whole family. Whether we believe he did it or not, he did still do it, right? Had a role in it. Some people just don't think anything dark went on, that Chris is just Chris, but other people were talking about it. And here's another one. Did Chris take little naps throughout the day, or was he just on a substance? Looking at the case timeline, this is one thing that really stands out to me. He was up by 8:45 a.m. on August 12th, talking on the phone with NK. Presumably he was up even earlier, but that is his first noted activity that day. Then he does things all day, includes calls, texts, taking the girls to a birthday party or some such play date, cooking food, and waiting for SW to come home. She gets home around 2 a.m. on August 13th when Chris smothers the girls and unalives SW between 2 and 5 a.m., loads up his truck, and leaves by 5:45 a.m. He hides the bodies and works as normal until he starts getting phone calls asking about SW around 9 a.m. Then he leaves work at noon. He gets home and spends all day trying to put on his innocent father facade for NA and the police. Then he is on the phone with NK until about 2 a.m. To my count, that is 41 hours of being awake and doing shit. I understand there is adrenaline, but it really seems more like uh, they're saying MEF used to me, unless he was taking little hour naps in between some of his recorded activity. Now, we know that Nicole said he would just fall asleep mid sentence and then would re emerge bright and bushy tail on the same word that he left off. And we know that I think those patches were giving him a lot of energy. I think they were giving Shanann a lot of energy too, because the amount of activity. I know I have autoimmune issues, and so I always admire people that can go, 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 go. But these people went, go, gone, got, gone. Like I would have never, even in my healthiest days, I wouldn't have been able to keep up with these people. So, um, was it the patches or was it something added? What do you guys think? Here, people are saying, seemed like Chris was the only person in the world that was using Thrive that actually lost weight. Thrive along with substances. I think in his prison photo, he looked bad. Sad to say, it was the first thing that popped in my head. It wouldn't surprise me. I don't know how someone would unalive your baby girls and pregnant wife high as hell on substances, let alone sober. It's so sad. Seems to me like I would have to be high on something to do something that awful. I think most of the world would have to be. So is that another reason why Chris was able to do this? Was I've never, for being an ex substance abuse counselor, and I've never really dived into the actual rug use in this story. I've looked at the Thrive patches and we've looked at the tea, but I've never really actually stop to think, wait a minute, his behaviors changed drastically. Like I've gone over it like over and over. Like what, I knew about Ronnie's substance abuse issues, and Nutgate kind of had some substance abuse issues in it with the razor blades and stuff, but nobody ever mentioned Chris maybe had substance abuse issues. Uh no, nobody ever mentioned that. And when we just did that live with Amanda recently, I have some information that I've been sitting on, and I've decided I am going to investigate it and use it a little bit further. That Amanda was a substance abuse user, and there is a article that came out where she talks about her substance abuse in her past. And I feel like, I mean, it would make sense that if she she was using substances and he gave Shanann substances, and uh was Chris using them too? Was Chris even, I don't even think they took Chris's blood or anything like that when he was arrested. So we don't even know if Chris was on anything, or do we? I don't think so. I'm pretty positive that they didn't take anything from Chris to see if he was using any kind of substances on the day of his arrest. But I think this is something we truly need to look at too. So that's why we're sitting here looking into it. This person says, I watched the Netflix documentary twice. It's clear looking at the characters that Shanann's friend, who was obese, blue hair, nose piercing with, was a, I think they must be talking about Nicole Atkinson. And to me, it's not clear that she was a meth head at all. So, um, nobody even tried to sue Thrive. In fact, I think to this day, the Ruchaks still use Thrive. We know that Nicole Atkinson is no longer with Thrive, but she said that was for reasons where she wanted to be able to sell other things and Thrive wouldn't allow it, so she left. So, but let's keep on going. This channel here, did Chris Watts and Nicole Kessinger have a rug addiction? So we're going to take a look at this video. Like I said, we probably won't watch it all, but I will put the links to everything that we watch down in the YouTube show notes.
Play in the Chris Watts murder. Was Chris Watts on drugs? Was Nicole Kessinger on drugs? Did she get him on drugs? That's what we're going to cover in this video. We've had so many requests to weigh in on this topic. It's time to examine the subject. We're going to take a look at the evidence. And not only are we going to look at what role drugs played in this case, but we're also going to take a look at the Thrive patches and examine whether or not that had any impact on what happened to the Watts family.
Oh, and I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you, this channel is Put the Shovel Down.
So that you're always 5 steps ahead of it. Now, as many of you may already know, not too long ago made a video about the addiction that Chris Watts had to Nicole Kessinger. Mostly I talked about the infatuation stage.
I think Chris definitely had an addiction to Nicole Kessinger. That is plain to see.
The stage that's called limerence, and how that is really an addicted state of mind. And in that video, I told you how I really feel like that was the primary motivation behind the terrible events that happened to this family and destroyed so many lives. But as a result of that video, I had so many questions from you guys about the possibility of an actual drug addiction. Did that play a role in the situation? And then I had a lot of questions also about the Thrive patches. Was that an addiction? Did it contribute anyway? Let's dissect the situation one thing at a time. Now, before I go much further, I've never met any of these people. I can never tell you 100% sure about any of these things. But based on the knowledge that I have, I'm going to give you my professional opinion about what I think happened here in regard.
Let me stop right here. I just want to look really quick and see what her professional, like, because I have a BA in social psych. I just want to see what her professional is. It says, don't wait until addiction causes you or a loved one to hit bottom. Addiction is highly predictable and can be outsmarted, which means you're not powerless. Hello, my name is Amber. I've been dealing with addiction my whole life. I grew up in an addicted family and later became a master addiction counselor. Okay, so she has her master's in addiction and she's a counselor.
Regards to the drug speculation. Okay, let's go. 3 really prevalent theories out there. 1, people seem to think that maybe there was a problem with pain pills. In the investigation, it came out that Chris Watts had attempted to give his wife some kind of pain pills, oxys, I think, in order to try and cause her to lose the pregnancy. Now, I think that one little piece of information is probably where the most of this thought process about was there a drug problem going on. And the big thing that really seems to trigger people up is because Chris Watts said that he would never tell where he got those drugs from. And everyone seems to be speculating that he must have gotten them from Nicole Kessinger. Now, listen, I don't know where he got them. You don't know where he got them.
I personally think, like I said earlier, that he could have got them from Amanda. But I was the one in the Koberger case where everyone was like, Koberger was going after Kaylee. And I looked at Maddie and I was like, no, it's Maddie. Because I looked at Maddie and I saw Maddie's boyfriend, and Maddie's boyfriend was very nerdy. And I know that Kober looked at her, and Maddie was very kind to everybody. And if you looked at her friends, she didn't just hang with the popular crew. She hung with everybody. And so I just knew it was Maddie. So
We don't.
I'm just saying that I think I'm right about it.
Don't know where he got them. But what I will say is that everyone seems to jump to a very fast conclusion that it must have come from Nicole Kessinger. Hey, maybe it did, but there's really no evidence to that. And you've got to admit that we are jumping to that conclusion. Now, I know anytime I talk about the situation, especially with Nicole Kessinger, people get all up in arms because everybody wants her to be the worst, most heinous villain. Hey, Maybe she was, but we're going to use only the evidence that we actually have to look at. We're going to try to remain objective here. He could have got that from his sister or his father or any other place that you can think of. It doesn't necessarily mean it had to come from Nicole Kessinger.
Good morning, me wise magic Sandy. How are you today? Happy Weird Watts Wednesday.
Okay, so besides this whole issue of where did it come from, let's take a look at whether or not it's possible that he could have had a pain pill problem. Well, of course, that is entirely possible. And the main reason I say that is because of all the theories out here about the different drugs. Pain pill addiction is the absolute easiest to hide. And when people are addicted to pain pills, it's really hard to tell, especially in the early.
We know that Chris didn't have any type of surgeries or wasn't prescribed any pain pills, but we also know that Shanann had just had neck surgery. So did he get them then?
Early stages when someone's addicted to pain pills, they don't look intoxicated, they don't slur their words, they don't smell funny, they don't really even act funny. In fact, when people are addicted to pain pills, a lot of times for the first few years, they'll be better functioning, they'll get employee of the month, their grades will go up. And so I can't tell you how many times families come to our office and someone's had a pain pill addiction and the family's like, how did this go on so long? Usually for years before we even knew it. And it's because you really can't tell, especially in the earlier stages, because the signs and symptoms just do not look like other substances where you can kind of tell someone's intoxicated. You're just not going to get that at all. So is it possible that he could have had a problem with pain pills? Well, yeah, I guess I'll say that's possible. Is it possible that Nicole Kessinger had a problem with pain pills and influenced Chris Watts? Yes, I'd have to say that is entirely possible because, like I said, it's really hard to tell, especially with that particular.
I think it's entirely possible that she had the influence because we're going to look at some of Nicole's history, and her history is pretty shady. And we know that she actually worked out in the oil fields. And I'm not saying everybody in the oil fields, but she actually worked on the rigs and it was down and dirty with,
addiction. Now, yes, I'm saying it's possible, but hang on there because I'm going to come back to it in just one second and tell you about whether or not I think it was likely that that's what was going on. But before I do that, let's take a look.
I don't even think she needs to put a pin in it. I can hear from her tone of voice. She doesn't think it.
Other theory that seems to be floating around out there. There's this other theory that maybe there was an addiction to some sort of stimulant medication. Mostly people are talking about like methamphetamines, otherwise known as meth, on the streets. Now, I did watch a video by the Armchair Detective, which was a great video, where he really zoomed in on some physical evidence that Nicole Kessinger could have had a problem with meth or some kind of stimulant addiction. The main thing from what I saw from that video that he really zoomed in on was that in those interrogation or interview, maybe we'll call it interview videos that they did with Nicole Kessinger, she had her hair pulled back in a ponytail, and you could see that her hairline looked a little bizarre. It was almost like there was a patch or two maybe that really looked like it was almost like a bald patch, like it should have had hair.
But now people are tending to point that out and mention that that could have something to do with a struggle that occurred, because apparently there's some red marks around her too, along with those few red marks that were on Chris.
There, but it didn't. And then he so he looked at that interrogation video, and then he zoomed back in on some of the pictures that are out there that we've all seen about some of the dates they were on, and that you really couldn't see that hair loss. Well, part of the issue was in the investigation video, she had her hair in a ponytail. In some of the other videos, she did not. I did look to see that there are a couple of pictures back before.
I hate to say this, but I don't even know if I believe it, because it's coming from the Armchair Detective. Even if it was a great video, when you give away your integrity, then people are forced to figure out what's true and what's not true. And I hate that.
For the investigation, where she had her hair in a ponytail. And it's really hard to tell whether those little spots were there before the interview or just were there after or during the interview. The other piece of evidence that he really
see is that I do see a spot right there.
Or just were there after or during the interview. The other piece of evidence that he really zoomed in on, by he, I mean the Armchair Detective, was the fact that she seemed sort of shaky or twitchy or jittery, or she had these like fast movements, which can be an indicator of a stimulant abuse problem. So can hair loss. But let's take a look at these pieces of evidence from an addiction lens. The first piece let's look at is the missing hair piece. Yes, stimulants or meth can cause hair loss, but typically when you see any kind of drug-induced hair loss, it's more like the thinning of hair. So someone's hair becomes progressively more and more thin. They just lose more and more hair. You don't really see that they lose a patch of hair.
Yeah, and if it was a patch of hair, it would be because they were picking right there. Especially with meth use, they like to pick at things. I've even had ex-meth people tell me like they would sell their scabs in prison because meth heads would think the drug was in the scabs, and they would, with the scabs. So meth people do some strange things.
In one spot. So I don't really view that spot. I don't know why it was there. I don't know if it was there before or after, but I don't necessarily view that as an indicator that there was some kind of meth problem going on. Now, as far as the other piece of evidence, the twitchiness, the jerkiness, it's really hard to tell because when you look at his video, you can tell it's cut and cropped a little bit. And she was fairly excitable in that interview. We're not going to go into dissecting all of that interview or what she lied about or she didn't. I have another video on that. But in an overall sense, what I'm going to say is I don't really think that's enough evidence to conclude that there is a methamphetamine problem.
I don't think there's a methamphetamine issue in this story. If there's any kind of issue, it's the overuse of the stimulant and Thrive. And so this is my guess. And I was a substance abuse counselor for like 6 years. This is just my guess. It's a pill addiction and overuse of the stimulant in Thrive.
Problem.
And she was giving them some kind of drink too. I don't know.
Moreover, when you look back at all the pictures of her hair and skin and his hair and skin, they both look really healthy. Her hair looks shiny.
Yeah.
Her skin looks really healthy. And if someone had
I guess people with, and she was really into health and wellness around that time. So I don't think meth was the issue.
Long-standing methamphetamine problem, they just really would not have that healthy skin.
What do you guys think? Do you think meth was an issue? I don't think it was.
And hair look. So could there have been some methamphetamine use? Yeah, I guess there could. Could there have been some pain pill abuse or use, whatever? Yes, I guess that there could. But there's not any evidence out there that there was an addiction to these things or any long-standing problem to these drugs. I just don't see a whole lot of other evidence out there. The only other thing that's being talked about is the fact that Nicole Kessinger supposedly called a sober living facility. But there's nothing out there to say why she did that. Was she calling to talk to someone else? Was she calling for herself? So yeah, there are these little pieces of information that we all want to grab onto. In this case,
that's actually new information for me. I didn't realize that Nicole had called a sober living facility. Did anyone know anything about that? And if you know where this information is this like in the court records? Is this on her phone list? How do we know this?
It's particularly hard because we just want to grab a hold of it and take the worst possible case scenarios and insert them because it's a natural reflex. We just want to make sense of what happened, and it was just so awful that it's hard to make sense of, and we want to put these puzzle pieces in place sometimes that really just aren't there. Could there have been substance abuse? Yes. Do I think that was the primary cause for what happened here? Or do I even think there was evidence of long-term addiction? I really don't see that evidence, and I don't think that that was the primary cause or even a big factor in what went on in the Watts case.
I think that it wasn't a primary cause, but I do think there was substances being used, and I think it was a factor in it. But what she was saying, she did some video on addiction to each other. I think there was definitely an addiction to one another, like 100% addiction to each other. I wanted to look at that video she had on addiction to one another. Hold on one second. See if I can find it. Let me see. Okay. Nicole Kessinger, truth, lies, manipulation, and everything in between. The Chris Watts affair. No. Let me see if I put in Kessinger. If I can't find it, I have other stuff we can look at. Did Chris Watts and Nicole Kessinger have a drug addiction? Well, that's what we're already doing. All right, I'm going to look in one final place to see if she linked it down below. Okay, she didn't. All right, let's keep going, guys. I will put the link for her channel down in the description. Let's start looking at Kessinger now. And oh, guys, if you could give this live a thumbs up, helps us go out into the algorithm party out there. Also, YouTube is unrolling their YouTube. It's kind of like their message boards, their community section, and if you could just share this live to your community section, that would help us out tremendously. Just draws more people back to our channel, and it's really appreciated. Okay, so let me make sure I have you on the right screen. Nicole Kessinger, apologies if this isn't welcome on the sub. I'm trying to be as objective and on topic as possible. I'll start by saying that I have no desire to defend NK and her actions. I think she is a sleaze and somewhat selfish, entitled person, and I think she knew more about Shanann and Chris's marriage than she leads most to believe. However, I don't believe she physically contributed to the murders either. That being said, I don't understand people who label her as a witch or being involved in dark forces, witchcraft, etc., mostly based on Chris's statements, and take it as fact. Regardless of anything else, CW is the perpetrator of this crime and has lied through his teeth time and time again. He also has a history of deflecting and trying to shed blame to the point where he really tried to lie and say Shanann unalived the girls, and he had to unalive her out of rage. Again, no great love for NK, but how does anyone buy that nonsense? That she made potions or put a spell on him. This isn't a fantasy story. This is a real murder that occurred in real life. I'm sure this is not what most people are trying to do, but when they say that it feels like they're trying to give Chris an out and buy into his account that something just took over him and he couldn't stop. Owning crystals or whatever doesn't make you a witch. It's fair to argue that she was a catalyst for Chris to commit his crime, and she should not have been messing around with a married man. Both are in the wrong, but knowing engaging in an affair. I just can't believe that in the current year people are pushing this satanic panic-esque nonsense. You know what I can't believe in this? Oh, no, I'm not going to say it. Never mind. In fact, so looking what people are saying, in fact, I believe evidence has been released showing proof of an overly friendly text exchange with CBI agent of or some LEO involved in the case. No one said anything. Crystals makes you a witch. It's what you do with them. It's what you do with whatever it is you have. There's good and bad in the world. A person chooses what they're going to be or do. She chose evil. This person says, I do think it could also be related to a CX cult that has her great weapon. That was her great weapon. Yeah, she was really good at she was good at weaponizing sex. Plus the things she used for total control, stones, drink, whatever she used. She's an evil witch. She will pay for that. It's so funny that the person's like, give me proof. And this person's just like, no, I'm just going to say how I feel. The devil's breath drink makes sense. Chris had said she would fix some sort of drink and only he drunk it. You hit the nail on the head. I thought all what you said, the drink, everything. Nice to know you. I'm sorry this terrible tragedy happened. No one, and I mean no one, deserves to die like the victims did. She was the mastermind. Chris just allowed her to be. Why is it so hard to believe people who are witches you would never really know? Chris said she fixed him a drink for him only. She wouldn't drink it. She played with different crystal stones, gems. She had a spiritual advisor at spiritualist camp. Anyone who goes to one of those camps are asking for trouble, opening the door to evil, bad things. They talk to the dead. I worked with one of those people. He was a sweetheart. His wife had died and he lived at this camp. He talked to her daily. He told me I was kind of scared of him, but he never pushed his beliefs on me in me. He was he was in AIDS. I worked as an IPN. He was different but nice. His wife was a medium. He did say I could give a free reading. I said no, thank you. This place is called Camp Chesterfield. Been there for years, so this stuff is real, not makeup. Her dad was a Freemason. They're not good people either. I'm not saying all. It's just a secret society. They believe in higher power. Christina Randall did a video on the Mistress NK and the special drink, and I wanted to take a look at it.
My beauties, my friends, my
Hold on, let me get us past the intro.
babies. So good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everybody doing today? I hope you all are having an amazing day. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about yet again NK, because there's actually more stuff to be talked about. Shocking. And you guys love talking about this subject. Before we get into it though, however, I do want to say, because I do feel a bit bad. I have a bit of a pit in my stomach because we're really picking her apart here. However, there are so many things that you just can't ignore. Like, you have to question. I do want to say that everything that we're talking about in this video and every video that I put out is pure speculation. We don't really know. I don't really know, but it's some good speculation, if I may say. I mean, come on, so let's get into talking about some more things that we now know about NK. I will leave videos linked down below that helped me find some of this information. In the video I was telling you guys about in my last NK video, where Sherilyn Cadle came on and spoke on the channel Unmasked, and I hope y'all went over there and told them that you're part of Baby Gang and subscribed, because they're awesome. Sherilyn Cadle said that remember how I was talking to you guys about the whole crystals thing? And I'm filming this before I put the other video up, so I don't even know what you guys' response is, and I hope that I didn't say anything wrong, because I am uneducated in crystals and the crystal community and all that there. And Nicole does not represent everybody. I know that. But supposedly when they were on that 3-day nudist camping trip, she held up her crystals, Chris told Sherilyn, and was talking to her grandmother through the crystals out there. And she was like disappearing. And supposedly Chris said it was not out of the realm of ordinary for Nicole to just disappear anytime they were together. And I don't know, you guys, it's just
disappear like she was fading in and out of his sight, or like disappearing, like wandering away? What kind of disappearing are we talking about here?
Weird to me. It just is. Like, you guys tell me, like, do y'all and if you do, I know that there's definitely people that are in connection with the spiritual world. I know that for sure, but they also don't have a boyfriend that just says something took him over and his eyes turn black out of nowhere and he feels like he can't stop himself and he goes and kills his whole family, and then everybody just kind of gets out of her way. I don't know. It's a little weird. Is it weird? Is it hokey pokey or what? I don't know. I have to mention it. Whether any of it has any merit or not, I have to mention it. Something that's
very weird and hokey pokey. And usually when things are weird and hokey pokey, substances are involved.
Has really bothered me since I listened to the Sherilyn Cadle, and I've really put together all of this information of things and things that Chris himself has said, which I don't believe, in my personal opinion, that Chris would lie on Nicole, because he won't even tell everything. He's still protecting her for whatever reason, whether it be she knows something, whether it be he's holding out hope that she comes back to him one day, whether it be she's got a spell on him. Like, I don't know, but for whatever reason, he's still protecting her. Okay. But Nicole, when she got in that interview with the interrogator or the interviewer or whatever, she made it seem like it was no big deal with them. Oh, it was just 6 weeks. It was just 6 weeks. But when you see all of the things that they did together in just 6 weeks, it seems pretty odd. You guys, I'm starting to wonder if they really were messing around a lot longer than the time that they both said.
Well, I can't understand it, because if they weren't messing around a lot longer than what we actually know, then it was substances. I feel like it's one or the other. Like they either knew each other for a long time or it was substances, because oftentimes when substances are in play and the start of a relationship can fly like none other. So maybe that's it.
Okay, because listen to this. In the 6 weeks, Nicole's no big deal. It's no big deal, just 6 weeks, and I don't even really know this guy and, whatever. They allegedly went on a 3-day nudist camping trip. No shame in it. Do whatever you want, but that's not typically you just go and do when you first meet somebody. But maybe they did. Maybe y'all do. I don't know. Let me know down below. They had menages allegedly with another person. Okay. She prepared for the back door, which, hey, go off, do your thing too. But like, this is a lot of like what I would consider personal, really intimate stuff that you don't just do with a guy when you first get with them. Okay. She was in his house twice. Okay. In his house where his children sleep.
That she says that she will admit. I'm sure it was much more than that.
Where his wife is, where they feed their kids, bathe their kids, where their dog is. He cooks on the grill for her, carrots and chicken in his wife's house. She's going through his phone because she said herself that when she went over to his house to help him with his fitness app, she would take his phone or he would give her his phone and she would, look at his macros and stuff. I don't think that's all she was looking at, baby. She was looking at his text messages between him and his wife.
Yeah. Do you think she wasn't actually going through text messages when she had that phone programming his macros and then looking at photos, seeing that Shanann was actually pregnant?
Was looking through more stuff, but okay, that's my opinion. She was helping him find an apartment and a house. She was talking to him about finances. She was discussing his wife's finances with him because in one of the interviews, the interviewer said, "Do you know how much money Shanann made?" Because she was like, "Oh, I guess." She was like, "Do you know what Shanann, did?" She was like, "Oh, I guess I."
That's a possibility because it was I know psychedelics are legal now in Colorado. They probably weren't legal at the time, but I imagine they were probably pretty easy to get. So, yeah.
Would call her a sales rep or something like that. That's what she said. And he was like, "Yeah, okay, I guess," or whatever he said. I'm paraphrasing this all. And the interviewer said, did he ever say how much Shanann made? And Nicole was pretty much like, Chris said she's really competitive and she likes to get up there with him, meaning like the way I took it was Nicole was saying that Shanann made money enough to get up there and compete with what Chris made at his job. Okay. Those are really deep, intimate conversations and things that you do with somebody in 6 weeks. She gave him a key to her apartment. She put crystals underneath his daughter's bed for whatever reason. Okay. For whatever reason it could be. It could have been for healing. It could have been for whatever. Who knows what her intentions were with that. But like, she's going on all kinds of like trips with him and they were doing all of this.
I truly wish they had just frickin' taken a picture of the crystal and the book under the bed. Why would you not just take a picture of it so we could see it? Because I would really like to know what the book was and what kind of crystal it was, because crystals have different meanings.
Stuff. And all of this in 6 weeks. Like, I don't know, you guys.
And was for a man that's under Bella's or Cece's bed, or was it just Bella's bed? And did she choose Bella because Bella looked more like Chris? Like, why was it Bella's bed?
Still living with his wife, like 6 weeks. That just don't sit right with me. For me, it just doesn't. What do you guys think? I mean, I know some people move fast.
No,
okay, some people.
None of this sits right with me, and I'm just really thinking that now it's rugs. I'm really thinking, and like probably some kind of psychedelic was in that tea, and maybe he was disassociating. Maybe he was totally disassociated. I don't know.
Do move fast in their relationships, but I think more of like telling each other you love each other, maybe even moving in with them. But I mean, having menages, preparing with the back door, going on nudist things, trying to going through their finance informations, going through their phone, like that is a lot of bold stuff to do within 6 weeks. I don't know, y'all. Seems suspicious. Cheryl Lynn also said in her interview with Unmasked that Chris said that Nicole mixed him up a special drink and he drank it. What was that special drink?
There was the drink that he gave her. And I've been told that since then that he has denied this drink, but I'm not the only person he told it to. So I know that it was either just something he was trying to brag about or it happened, because he definitely told me.
The drink she gave him, correct?
Yes, it was a drink that she would mix
Oh,
up.
and Sherilyn is another person who has lost her integrity because she had to take her whole book down for plagiarism. So that's another person that you have to decide, do you believe her or don't you believe her on this tea thing? Just want to put that out there too.
For him. Mm-hmm.
What kind of hocus pocus potion was she mixing up for him? I don't know, you guys. I know I'm kind of stuck on this thing because it's all weird to me. But like, he didn't say she mixed me up a protein smoothie, which they have talked about that before. He said a special drink. What was a special drink? Was it greens in a cup? Was it, I don't know, you guys, some of that stuff.
Yeah,
That the
like,
hocus
what is a special drink? Is a special drink like an alcoholic beverage? Is it tea? Is it a whipped drink? Is it a shot? Is it, like she said, greens in a cup? Like, what is it?
Pocus Witches was putting in the big pot. Oh my gosh, you guys are really going to come for me like now. But I'm just making jokes. But because what was it? What was the special drink she mixed up for him?
Have you guys seen that Practical Magic? There's going to be a Practical Magic this year. Or is it this year or next September? It's either this September or next September. I'm so excited about it. I loved Practical Magic, and I just rewatched it yesterday. And they were whipping up some hocus pocus to get the demon out of the redheaded one. Gosh, what was her name? Sally was the dark-haired one. I can't think of the other one's name.
I don't know if you guys know this, but we all know that Nicole deleted all of her text messages between her and Chris, right? And she talked him into deleting all of his messages to her too, right? But she told the investigator that it was because she was mad at him that she deleted them, but yet she talked him into deleting all his text messages too. So they couldn't get any of their conversations between each other. But whenever Chris was talking to one of the investigators on the phone, he was talking to the investigator on his work cell phone. Okay. He had a personal cell phone and a work cell phone. He was talking to the investigator on his work cell phone, and he had her on his private cell phone listening to the conversation of him talking to the investigator.
Yeah, I believe that for sure, because why would they have done that weird setup? Okay, so let's keep on going. So over on Reddit, they're asking Nicole and her rug use. Was it ever proven that Nicole was using rugs? I'm currently reading the If I Did It book and feel like he goes on about her supposedly doing rugs in an effort to potentially use that as a reason she may have unalived the family. Wait, that's O.J. Simpson. Sorry, that's not right. That's O.J. Simpson. Let's just move on and ignore that. So over here, Behind Criminal Minds is asking Chris Watts exposing Nicole Kessinger's dark past. So we know that Nicole did have a dark past, and so we're going to take a look at some of Nicole's darkness. And is this possibly where the substance abuse came from?
Past 5 years, many people have asserted that the claims of Nicole Kessinger's involvement in this case is nothing short of a pointless fishing expedition. In fact, Weld County District Attorney Michael Rourke went on the record stating, and I quote, "I have absolutely no reason to investigate Nicole Kessinger at this point in time. This is not a witch hunt," unquote.
She originally came forward and spoke to investigators on her own volition. Prior to the time, unfortunately, that she came in and spoke with investigators, she had deleted all of the information off of her phone that had any connection between her and Chris Watts. That hampered the investigation. That hampered our ability to get that electronic digital connection between the two. She was interviewed on multiple occasions. I believe that for the most part, she was forthcoming in the course of those investigations. We don't have any reason to believe that she had any prior knowledge or involvement in the death of Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and Nico. I think that's the best way I can answer that.
He would go on to completely dismiss all the claims that have been made about the problematic information that has arisen concerning her possible involvement, going on to claim that he had completed his job by securing the conviction against Chris Watts and that there was no interest whatsoever in any other investigation. You will want to keep that information at the forefront of your mind as we continue. So with that said, let's begin.
Sorry, Carol, I don't understand what that means.
FBI agent Laren Jones met with Nicole Kessinger and her father the evening of August 15th, 2018. virtually at the same time that Chris Watts was confessing. The urgency of the case had reached critical mass now that investigators understood that this was no longer a missing persons case. The collection of evidence, interviews of witnesses, and the subsequent forensic analysis began in haste, the sole purpose of which was to secure a conviction against Chris Watts. Now, it is critical to understand that before law enforcement ever met with Nicole Kessinger, they had already considered her a protected witness. And they gave her this protected status before they had any records, documentation, cell phone data, or anything whatsoever that could in any way definitively exclude her involvement in this crime. Before law enforcement had spoken to a single witness that could verify any of her stories, and before they received any evidence that could eliminate her as a suspect, they had already made up their minds to treat her as a protected asset in their investigation. It would seem that law enforcement had decided to completely sidestep the need to comprehensively verify that she was in fact blameless. And this was despite the fact that before they began this initial discussion, they would learn that Nicole Kessinger had already deleted vital material.
Which is so strange because you would always keep the people closest to the murder victims as suspects, and being a mistress, mistresses often help, do they not? I mean, I could name, some of them even do it. So
evidence from her phone that throughout the entire investigation would never be recovered. Evidence that I'm about to show you was critical to their quadruple homicide investigation. And having reviewed the discovery in its entirety, it is now obvious to me that from the very beginning of this initial interaction, that the FBI agents meeting with Kessinger and her father had no earthly idea who they were actually speaking to, the history that she was hiding from them, or why it even mattered. The first interview began after some initial pleasantries and started with Nicole describing how she met Watts and their initial discussions about his relationship with his wife, Shanann, a name that Nicole will consistently and repeatedly refuse to say throughout half a dozen encounters with law enforcement, instead choosing to refer to her as that woman or her, or just about anything other than
that alone would have made them curious about that. Like, why is she not saying this woman's name? Let's move forward and see if they get into more of her past.
Entire family at Serby 319 and asked him to send her a picture of the site, proving that he was there. Now, for those of you who haven't lived on Watts Island for the last 5 years, Serby 319 is the oil site where Chris disposed of his entire family. And Nicole Kessinger, on Monday night, hours after he had committed this disgusting crime, texted him and told him to prove that he was there. Over the years, I've heard people who adamantly defend Nicole Kessinger and law enforcement by making comments about how absurd it is that random lay people
It's just, one or two things, yeah, you can like explain it away, but there's just all these coincidences, one after another. The text, the proving that you were there, the battery song, just the 1 hour and some odd minute conversation that is it 117 minute or 12, or I don't know, the long conversation that neither one of them can seem to remember, the using the work phone and the other. I mean, it's just so much. It's just so much, right?
Possibly think that the true crime community could have any insights into this case. The implication being that all of these branches of law enforcement did their job and thoroughly vetted Nicole Kessinger. So then I have a question to those people. What do you think that Agent Kobach said after Nicole dropped the bomb that she told Chris to text her proof that he had been to the well where his family would later be found? Well, if you guessed nothing, then you win the grand prize, because after this unbelievable revelation, Agent Kobach had no hard-hitting follow-up questions. He just let her continue to dominate the entire conversation without ever calling her out for such an incredibly disturbing revelation. He never brings up the fact that she previously claimed that on Sunday he was fine and that she didn't have a problem with him. He just lets it go. And the sad reality is that Agent Kobach consistently and repeatedly failed to ask the follow-up questions that he should have asked when Nicole Kessinger was caught in a verifiable.
This is a very haunting case. So haunting. It haunts a lot of us still.
that she told them over the course of just a few weeks. And I want to prove to you that they were showing her a disproportionate amount of understanding and subjectivity while failing to vet any of her complete fabrications. On October 16, 2018, Detective Dave Baumhover contacted David Colon, a friend of Chris Watts, concerning a letter that he had sent to Chris at the Weld County Jail. The letter was intercepted by law enforcement, and DA investigator Dan Boyle was given the letter for further analysis. Upon reading it, he developed concerns about what Colon had written, so concerned that he contacted Detective Dave Baumhover and asked him to call Mr. Colon and to question him concerning the letter. In this supplemental report from the discovery, we can plainly see that Detective Baumhover contacted Mr. Colon and questioned him concerning his inconsistent statements because he made a comment about Shanann being overbearing. It was the DA's opinion that in Mr. Colon's initial statement, he never made any such comment about Shanann, and they were so concerned about his changing story that they called him to discuss what they perceived was an inconsistency. Now, I want to emphasize the importance of this interaction that David Colon had with law enforcement. He writes a letter to Chris Watts, and all he does is make a passing comment about Shanann, and law enforcement pounces on the letter and him, wasting no time to call him and demand that he explain himself. And I'll be honest, that is fascinating to me. They noticed the most minuscule change in an inconsequential witness's story, but Nicole Kessinger, who would have been a star witness at the Chris Watts jury trial, changes her story near constantly, and they don't bat an eye. In fact, through the various interactions
That is really fascinating, isn't it?
Agent Kobach had with Nicole, he makes excuses for her. But hold on, because this isn't the only time that they went after potential witnesses concerning the veracity of their stories. On August 29, 2018, Agent Tammy Lee was contacted by Trent Bolt. Bolt was a man who claimed to have been in an intimate relationship with Chris Watts in the year preceding his crimes. But it's in this interview with Agent Graham Coder and Tammy Lee that we witness one of the most aggressive interrogations of a potential witness that ever occurs throughout this entire case. Bolt is challenged on every claim, every statement, or even any minor alteration to his account. And whenever Bolt's story doesn't match up, he is outright called a liar. So it's a little strange to me that Nicole Kessinger is allowed to literally alter her story at every new interaction with law enforcement, tripping herself up in her own web of uncontestable lies, and no one ever bothers to call her out on them. And I could pick apart all 7 hours of her audio recordings this way because they are all the same. In fact, I was unable to go 5 minutes in any direction without coming across a statement, a discussion, or a claim that didn't contain a foundationally obvious lie. And if that isn't extremely concerning to you, do me a favor. Start this video over because I don't think you've been paying attention. But let's continue.
He texted me and told me something along the lines of like, my wife and my kids aren't home. And I was just like, okay. And then that was on Monday. It was on Monday. You know what time it was? Honestly, I'm kind of upset with him right now. Just disappointed with him. So
Did you catch that? Nicole realizes that she can't answer FBI agent Lair's question because she has already deleted all of her text messages. And she nearly blurts that out when she realizes how bad it's going to sound that in the first 13 minutes of their discussion that she's already admitting to destroying material evidence in a quadruple homicide. So she pivots the conversation to say that she's upset with Chris, which has absolutely nothing to do with
I can't even stand her excuse on this. I was just so disgusted with him. So I just deleted everything in a murder investigation. And I told him to do the same. How ridiculous is that?
Question that she was just asked. But she's bringing it up because of the fact that her supposed anger with him will become the foundation of her laughable excuse for why she deleted everything off of her phone. Honestly, how did anyone ever buy this BS? Because the sad reality of this investigation is that no one in law enforcement ever gave her any considerable pushback concerning her choice to destroy material evidence. Oh, and by the way, she didn't just delete all of her text messages. She deleted all of her pictures, her contacts, emails, and anything else that had anything to do with Chris. And she didn't just erase all signs of Chris from her phone and leave it there, because she also told Chris on August 14th to follow suit and delete everything off of his phone too.
And then, so Tuesday, after that conversation, I told him to delete his text because I knew he was like going crazy texting me.
And then for some strange reason that we are supposed to believe is not at all concerning and is just a coincidence, her best friend Charlotte also deleted her entire conversation history with Nicole. A conversation that included a picture that she sent of Chris, as well as a discussion about him. There is no logical explanation for
And
why
the friend just thought to, I'm sure she told her to delete it.
she chose to delete vital records that was and still is evidence in that investigation, especially because of when she deleted them. On August 14th, 2018, Nicole was already well aware of law enforcement's investigation into what was a direly urgent missing persons case at that moment in time. Chris had already informed Nicole that his entire family was gone. She knew that she had important evidence from him on her phone that would show detailed information about his whereabouts that morning, especially in light of the prove it text messages and screenshots he sent from Survey 319 on Monday night. At 12:08 p.m. on Tuesday, August 14th, 2018, Nicole Kessinger spent nearly 4 entire hours searching Google for stories related to Chris, Shanann, and news accounts concerning Shanann's disappearance. Nicole would eventually leave work early, and at 5 p.m., she would begin searching Google again, but this time for something far more specific. This just happens to be the same day that Nicole deletes all
Cops trace text messages. That's not suspicious at all. I mean, that's completely normal behaviors in an innocent person.
Since I began my research on the Watts case, I was able to conduct my own independent investigation into Nicole Kessinger, and what I found in the publicly available court records revealed that she was arrested on December 9th, 2006. You will notice that the arrest was for underage possession and consumption of alcohol, certainly not the crime of the century. But what I thought was incredibly odd was that this was her second offense. And at the time, she was only 19 years old. But somehow, even though she had already received her second charge for underage drinking, her case was completely dismissed. Now, I have been in contact with an anonymous source who provided additional information that I was able to use to locate this record. You'll probably notice that the spelling of Nicole is entirely different, but the date of birth and the middle name are the same. Furthermore, this is an adjacent county, but you can see in the charges that Nicole is spelled with an O-L-E. But this time she was charged with driving without a license and another alcohol-related offense. And again, this is the second charge in just that county.
And do you guys think that if she's doing alcohol, that's all she's doing? Do you think she's not taking any other substances? I'm sure there's some other substances that she was ingesting and it wasn't just alcohol, but that's just my guess.
At the age of
they're not like taking her blood, they're taking her BAC here, her breath.
19 years old. And wouldn't you know it, this case just goes away too, with no mention of probation or jail time. And no matter how you read this, somehow Nicole Kessinger appears to commit several crimes and then walks away from it without any repercussions whatsoever. You know, I can't put my finger on it, but that kind of sounds familiar. But I suppose it's starting to make a lot more sense why her father was present for her first 2 interviews, because it would seem that he had already been through this a time or 2 or 12. But do you know what I find to be very disturbing about all of this information? Is that little more than a decade after these crimes, she would go on to become the mistress of a prolific family killer. A woman who seems to have a history of using multiple names and aliases, who is somehow able to get arrested multiple times and walk free every time of any responsibility or even probation. And what's even more hard for me to wrap my mind around is that law enforcement on August 15, 2018 requested her criminal background, which means they had every reason to approach their star witness with a certain level of caution. They had an obligation to ensure that they were going out of their way to verify her statements. Because if they had this information, did it not occur to anyone that someone with a history of criminal conduct might possibly have something to hide? Because Nicole's past criminal history was going to come up through the inevitable background check that any good defense lawyer would have conducted prior to a jury trial, which is why the next few things you're about to learn is nothing less than shocking. During my investigation, I received credible information concerning Nicole's prior history, but I do want to be very clear. These are allegations that cannot be verified absent of the primary parties coming forward. And this is due to the fact that they allegedly occurred while Nicole was still a minor. But the allegations involve Nicole allegedly committing a violent crime with a knife when she was only 16 years old. a crime that once again she was allegedly arrested for, but was again dismissed. Unfortunately, because she was a minor at the time, that means that the court records would be sealed. But the information that I received from this source had firsthand knowledge of the event, and while I cannot definitively confirm this information with court records, I was, however, able to find this public statement concerning the alleged encounter. And it's because of my knowledge of her criminal history that I found Detective Michael Prill's report especially intriguing, because it was the very first time any law enforcement agent associated with the Chris Watts investigation had written such unfavorable details that directly implicated Nicole Kessinger. Detective Prill's report exposed Nichol for having profusely lied to law enforcement. It revealed her damning Google searches, her clear obsession with Chris, her repeated and ongoing rendezvous with him, and a multitude of information that completely contradicted her entire narrative that she had been telling since day one. But even worse, the report showed evidence that there was now someone within law enforcement that had started to suspect that Nicole Kessinger was hiding something, and he made that suspicion clear throughout his entire report. Detective Prill's report was issued on Tuesday, October 30th, 2018, and a copy was sent to the Weld County District Attorney's Office. From that moment, the report became a ticking time bomb that's information would explode upon reading, but only in the hands of its final recipient. And I believe that what happened in the days and hours following the publishing of that report that completely altered the entire trajectory of the Chris Watts case for good. In the criminal justice system, discovery is often issued in triplicate: a copy for the clerk, a copy for the judge, and a copy for the defense. Due to the requirements of mandatory disclosure rules, all supplemental reports, including this one, are required to be shared with defense counsel. And it's commonplace that once defense counsel receives any new discovery, that a copy of that discovery is then shared with the defendant. It's my experience that this process usually takes a few days to get from the hands of the district attorney to the court, from the court to defense counsel, from defense counsel to the jail, and then finally into the hands of the defendant, Chris Watts. I would venture a guess that by Friday the 2nd of November, Chris Watts likely received a copy of this report. The report was brought to his cell, where he opened it and then carefully and methodically read each page. I imagine that he felt the same panic that we all witnessed from him as he stood there watching his neighbor's security camera footage the afternoon of August 13th, 2018. I envisioned that as he read Detective Prill's notes, he realized that someone within law enforcement was no longer buying the mountain of BS that Nicole had been selling the entire time. And that he realized someone had finally been able to see through the murky lies that Nicole had so carelessly spun over those many weeks.
Thinking that at that moment, Chris decided to save her.
And I imagine that after he read that report, he knew exactly what he needed to do. The only thing for a coward like him left to do. Because exactly 1 week after Detective Prill's report was issued, Chris Watts accepted a plea deal that would completely stop the investigation into his horrific crimes. An act.
So there you go. There was at least one person out there that was doing a case on NK. Do you think that Chris Watts read all that into that report and decided to admit to it to save NK's tushy for whatever reason? And more importantly, do you think that NK and Chris Watts were using and abusing substances together? Or do you think it was more just an addiction to the passion for one another? I think it was a little bit of everything. I think we're looking more at a perfect storm. There were a lot of things at play, but when you start to look at substances are a huge storm in itself. So what do you guys think? Do you think substances were being used between these two? And what do you think NK, I know these are a lot of things, but these are things that I want to start looking into. What do you think NK was putting into that drink? Psychedelics would be a good, it would be good to know, like, what kind of drink was it? Like, Chris, was it a see-through drink? Was it a thick drink? Was it a warm drink? Was it a cold drink? Did she spit into the drink? What did she do? Or what kind of drink was it? But anyway, that's what I have for today. I hope that you enjoyed your trip over to Weird Watts Island with me. Be sure to, if you want to keep your pits fresh and dry and keep the environment clean and fresh, support our wild deodorant, 20% off your first purchase with our code ParaWomen. I will put the link down in the show notes and is here on the screen and in chat. Today we're coming to you on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. So hi everyone. Be sure to give us love on that platform that you are viewing us on. And if nobody's told you this today, and even if they have, I'm still going to tell you guys this. I love you guys so, so much. And I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
I miss my cue, but baby, I had you. Miss my cue, but I had you for that day. Here in the blue, I'm falling deep.
Be sure to give this live a thumbs up. Helps me go out into the algorithm party out there. Bring more people back to the party. It's just a free way to help me.
Baby, I'm dancing with you tonight, and it feels fine, feels fine. Baby, I'm dancing with you tonight. Here in the blue, I'm dancing and falling out, hoping for some time with you.